Explain Well. Exclusive to The Drive with Robin Ross.
There have been some developments with the AKA murder investigation, and a lot of it has come out today. Justice for AKA trending all over social media today. I think the big story when those killings happened of him and Thebele Motswane was that people felt even if you were in a position of power and a position of stature, you still are not safe in South Africa.
Yeah, and I think that was the big thing that shook a lot of people. Because it was, I was going to use the phrase broad daylight, but you know what I mean, like outdoors in public, you know, when AKA and Tibbs were very tragically gunned down in Durban. And immediately at the time, you remember the backlash was, no one's going to find them. No one's going to ever solve this.
Niemand het hoop gehad daarvoor.
The same as the Senzo Miwa story. Yeah. And then earlier this week, we heard a story about a couple of people who were arrested in Eswatini. And then the cops were very quick to jump up and say, no, it has nothing to do with this case. And then 48 hours later, we're like, well, they are 2 of 6 people who've been arrested. And now what? Apparently a 7th.
Yes, and they're all going to be appearing in court tomorrow. But now one of the other things that we've also been hearing in the news is how easy it is to hire someone to commit a murder for you in South Africa. So we spoke to our SA forensic investigators, and they say we're one of the capitals in the world when it comes to this, and it's becoming exponentially easy because of a few factors. Poverty, people are becoming insensitive towards violence in South Africa, but also because there's a very low conviction rate. And an interesting fact that I learned today is the origin of one of the biggest so-called assassination pools in South Africa, where you can go and say, hey, please murder someone for me. And this is known as the Izinkabi, which has its roots in the taxi industry in KZN. So we spoke to Chad Thomas. Here's what he had to say.
Different taxi organizations fight over the different taxi routes. Because of the vast amounts of money involved, it's very easy to have somebody taken out. And the term Izinkabi came from, which refers to hitmen that originated in KwaZulu-Natal and had been trained for the specific purpose of taking people out.
And so they've also been connected to a few political killings as well, and also to whistleblowers that have been assassinated.
I mean, it's just ridiculous that in South Africa it's so easy to be a victim of crime.
Ja, absoluut. En ek dink ook soos wat ons nou in die nuus gehoor het by Johan Burger wat gesê het, die polisie is soms meer op dit as wat ons dink. Maar omdat hulle nie vir ons al die inligting kan gee nie, moet hulle goed terughou. So selfs nou het hulle gewaarsku dat mense te veel hieroor bespiegel en te veel eintlik wil uitvind by die polisie, because if we know the information, so do the criminals.
Yeah, that's absolutely a true story. And the other thing that I've been seeing a lot of discourse around on social media is just no faith that this is going to go anywhere. And that's depressing as well. Everyone going, oh, well, wait until it gets to court. We'll see if a docket disappears. We'll see if, you know, how many times have we heard a phrase, something like the judge shouted at the state prosecutor because they weren't ready for the trial, and then something doesn't happen, and then something doesn't move. And now we've got 7 people linked to this thing. They were talking about an amount of 800,000 rand that had changed hands. Apparently, they had 4 vehicles involved in this thing. They had followed AKA from the airport where he landed. They followed him to his hotel. They followed him from his hotel back out to dinner. There's a whole story that's come out around this thing. But a large group of people obviously organized and planned and so on. And the big question then at the end of the day is, who? Who said it? Who wanted it done, and why? And are we ever going to get that person at the end of the day? Or is this going to be a case of, I don't know the guy who paid me. He just paid me. I did the thing, you know? And then we're going to be no closer to solving, I suppose is the right word in that context, what exactly happened.
En die ding is ook dat die wiele van die reg vat lank om te draai.
Ja.
As ons die Senzo Miwa hofsaak vat as 'n voorbeeld, dit het gebeur, ek was nog swanger toe dit gebeur het. My kind word 10 in April, net om dit in perspective te sit. So it does turn slowly, but I think things like this give us some kind of hope that even though it is turning slowly, the wheel is turning and that justice will come. And I'm sure the families and the loved ones of the two men who lost their lives in February in Durban last year are actually hoping that this is going to happen.